So guys, there's obviously a lot of rumors regarding Manny Pacquiao. There's obviously a lot of people saying who's he going to fight, what's he going to fight. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to ask you guys, who do you want to see Manny Pacquiao fight? We obviously went through the certain candidates that I think that could potentially be in the last video. There are rumors now that it's Mikey Garcia. Then you hear something else. Then you hear something else. Who do you guys want to see Manny Pacquiao fight? Who do you think? Who should Manny Pacquiao fight? Who do you think? Do you just want to see Manny back in the ring? Do you want to see Manny fight a top competitor? Like, you know what? One thing about Manny Pacquiao fans, and one thing I've noticed about Manny Pacquiao fans, they're very ruthless. They want to see Manny Pacquiao fight the best of the best. Even though they love him and they're such big fans and they're fanatical about him. I'm a Manny Pacquiao fan, but I'm not a fanatical like some of the fans that he has in the Philippines. I'm just a normal fan, right? I'm not as fanatical as some of the, obviously, people from the Philippines because they probably have a lot of emotional and connection with him. Whereas with me, it's just I'm just a fan of his in terms of his boxing skills and talent. He's exciting to watch. He's one of the most exciting fighters of this era. But one thing I've noticed about his fans from the Philippines, they're very, very ruthless. They want to see him fight Golovkin. They want to see him fight Spence. They want to see him fight Crawford. I'm at the point where I just want to see him fight. I don't really care who's it against. That's why when I said the other day that, oh, you know, he could fight Khan, he could fight Ryan Garcia, he could fight Mike. A lot of people are saying, oh, you're saying he's going to fight Khan. Firstly, for a selfish point of view, I would love to see him fight Khan because I'm from the UK, I'm British, Pakistani. I wouldn't mind that fight, but they were like, nah, he's, you know, Khan's not a legacy. That's not a fight. But with me, it's a case where I just want to see Manny Pacquiao fight, and I'm excited to see who he's going to fight. Who the fighter is. Like I was just saying, if it's going to be Ryan or Mikey, I would prefer Khan. Because I don't think those guys are any more credible. I don't think so. Yeah, Mikey's more in his prime than Amir Khan is, but to be honest, I don't think that does much for his legacy. If he beats Mikey Garcia, does that do a lot? No, not really. Right? Not really. Now, if we're talking about legacy, if we're talking about... Some people already think Manny Pacquiao is the greatest ever. But if he wants to solidify that, and he's talking about legacy, and you guys really want to see him in a proper hard fight where people are going to be saying he's got no chance, then he's got to fight Spencer Crawford. He's got to then fight Spencer Crawford. Like I said to you, when I mentioned Khan Garcia and Mikey Garcia, I'm not saying that they're the most credible guys. I said that they're the three names that I think he's likely to probably fight next. Because all three guys, he would be a heavy favorite to win. And he'd get a big payday with both. I mean, sorry, with all three of them, he'd get a big payday. And I don't see any of, I don't think that those three would win. Even though, like I said, I like all three of them. I like Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan Garcia would be most unqualified because of the fact that he's never been a world champion and he's never really, you know, he's still unproven, really. In his last fight, he got knocked down and didn't look great against a guy, again, who wasn't a world champion. But Luke Campbell's a good fighter. He's an Olympic gold medalist, a good fighter. But nevertheless, you know, neither guy, Campbell or Garcia, has been a world champion. So that would be the most unqualified guy. Mikey Garcia is a great fighter, but he's not a welterweight. He's not a legitimate welterweight. He's fighting at a weight class that really shouldn't be fighting at. Really, he's a 140, 135 pounder. Really, you know, he's a blown up lightweight when he's coming. But Manny Pacquiao's not really a welterweight. He's just so brilliant that he's been able to perform at that weight against the top. But really, he's not a welterweight, Manny Pacquiao. He's not a legitimate big welterweight. I think there's no question. But if you're talking about legacy and if you're talking about him jumping in there with the best, then he's got to fight Spence and Crawford. It's quite obvious. But I don't think a guy coming off almost a 2-year layoff should jump in there with guys like Spence and Crawford. For me, it would be silly. At 43 years, 42 years of age, he's too old. And for taking that long layoff, you don't know where he is. You don't know whether he's the same. You don't know whether he's grown old overnight. And you'd be going up against guys that are the best in their prime. And that would be that wouldn't be right. I feel like he needs a fight against a lesser opponent, an opponent where he's going to be favorite, however, still going to give him a big payday. And I think all those three names that I mentioned would give him a big payday, and they'd also be seen as guys that he beats comfortably by the general boxing public. Now, the general boxing public thinking that Manny's going to win easy and him going in there and winning easy is two different things. Manny Pacquiao fought Jeff Horn, and I know he didn't get the decision. I thought he beat Jeff Horn. However, the fact is that fight was a lot harder than what the public expected to be. I expected him to get Horn out of there in 3-4 rounds. But the fight ended up being a lot tougher than it was. Yeah, Jeff Horn was hurt dirty. I get all of that. But I wasn't expecting that fight to be that tough. So there's one thing the public saying that the fight's going to be easy. Another thing inside the boxing ring. It can be, two completely different things. But he would expect to beat any of those three names. Garcia, Khan, whatever. He'd be expected. But then I heard another name from the Philippines. And I don't know if this is true. And I want you guys to confirm this with me. I heard the name Gennady Golovkin. Now, Manny Pacquiao was linked to Golovkin a long time ago. But Golovkin was, that I said at that time that fight's not going to happen. Golovkin's too big. And I still believe that fight's not going to happen. But I don't know what you guys heard. Someone messaged me that there are rumors that he could be fighting Golovkin, but I said, stop it. He's not going to fight Golovkin. And I still don't believe he's going to fight Golovkin. But Golovkin's old. He's past his best now. But again, it's the weight disparity is too much. For me, if he's going to take on a bold move, then he's got to take on Spence or Crawford. And I would advise him, out of the two, I would advise him to take Spence. Because I think Spence, although he's bigger, he's stronger, and he punches harder, I think Spence is slower than Crawford. I think right now, Crawford, although Crawford's chin is suspect, I think Crawford's too busy, too sharp. His foot speed is very fast, and his hand speed is fast. Manny Pacquiao needs somebody that he can control the pace against. Someone like a Spence who's a lot slower, who's a good boxer, underrated boxer, but he's a lot slower in his movement. His hand speed is not as sharp. His foot, he's not as fast. His foot speed is not as quick. So Manny Pacquiao could cause him trouble. It's just whether Errol Spence's size and strength wears Manny down. And it could do. It could well do. Don't get me wrong, Manny would be an underdog against Spence as well. Because of his sheer size and his true welterweight. That would be a problem for Manny at this stage in his career. In his prime, no problem. He beats Spence, as far as I'm concerned. They wouldn't stand a chance as far as I'm concerned. But right now, the age of 42, especially the way he looked against Thurman almost 2 years ago, where he was laboring towards the end. He was definitely tiring. He definitely didn't look his old self. And that's only natural, right? Mother Nature taking its course. Nature takes its course, man. I don't care who you are, whether you're a freak of nature or whatever. The older you get, the harder it becomes. And when you're a 42-year-old, it's only going to get harder. So, I think the Spence fight, Crawford fights, they're very, very difficult fights. But those are the more realistic legacy fights. If that's what he's deciding to do, I don't think he's going to fight them next. Personally, I think if I had to make a pick, I think it's going to be Mikey Garcia. I think he's going to fight Mikey Garcia. If I'm totally honest with you, I think there must be negotiations going on. Mikey Garcia didn't look too confident in a recent interview he did with the PBC. He didn't look too confident in getting that fight, which I was surprising. He was more talking about other names, that if I don't get Pacquiao, I'll be willing to fight Porter, Ugas, Spence. No, he didn't say Spence. Ugas, Thurman, Danny Garcia. He goes, these are the names that I'd be looking at. So, is that an indication that he's not going to fight Mikey? But if he's not going to fight Mikey, who is it? I personally think that Mikey Garcia is the front runner of getting that fight. Am I happy with that? Not really. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Manny fighting Mikey. Mikey's a credible guy. It's not one that would get my juices flowing, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of opinion. Mikey Garcia is a credible guy. He's a 4-weight world champion. He's a very good fighter, and a fight with him and Manny Pacquiao would be a good fight. It'd be well anticipated by the fans. It'd be a big fight. It's not one that a lot of Manny's fans, from what I've seen online, would want. Would the boxing world, like I said in a previous video, I think Mikey Garcia's lost, his stock has dropped massively since he lost to Spence in the fashion he lost to him. I think his stock has dropped massively, and I don't think people view him as the same guy, unfortunately. But nevertheless, I still think Mikey's a credible guy and a credible name, and like I said, I think we're all just want to see Manny Pacquiao back and see him fighting. It's not about who he really fights; it's about him just seeing him back. Which obviously would get us excited. You know, Manny Pacquiao fights are always great. So that's my take on it. Who do you want to see Manny Pacquiao fight? I would love to know your opinion. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Who you want to see Manny Pacquiao fight? Who should he fight? Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.